Hello everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. I will be your astrologer this week. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Happy Sunday to my Sunday crew. Hopefully you guys are enjoying your weekend and your day off. I'm here to bring you the astro weather for the week of February 5th through the 12th of 2023. Got some interesting stuff happening this week. If you're paying attention, you'll be able to pick up on some of the subtle notes that we're getting from Mercury throughout some of his transits this week. But obviously, yeah, big news is that we're finally, after weeks of going through a Mercury retrograde, going through shadow, we're going to see Mercury come into conjunction with Pluto in the sign of Capricorn. So I'm sure all my Gemini and my Virgo rising people are kind of perking up right now. Good time to pay attention. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm a Western astrologer with an emphasis in working with tarot as well as the Sabian symbols as I kind of decode what's going on in the cosmos. Please make sure you click the button below. You're subscribed. That way you're alerted as to when we have content coming out on the channel. Little birdies in the comment sections have told me that they have noticed they have become unsubscribed recently. So I don't know if it's just a coincidence or if the algorithm is working against us because people fear truth. But we're going to talk all about Pluto and his conjunction with Mercury and where that's going to be exposing some things out in the world. So please do subscribe. You guys can also support my work by donating, joining my memberships, or joining me for one of my lives on Friday nights. All of those things help make it possible for me to keep bringing you guys more content. We've got horoscopes, weekly videos, full and new moon reports, and much, much more. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into it. I want to talk to you guys about what's going on for the week ahead. Yeah, big headlines, the Mercury-Pluto conjunction. Pluto's going to hit 29 degrees this week, guys. We're going to hear or feel kind of the volume turn up a little bit in our lives. You know, like that phrase, like the frog being in the boiling pot and the frog doesn't realize it's being boiled until it's too late. Pluto will cook, similar to that same kind of gross scenario. And we're not really going to feel it until Pluto goes in and out of this 20 to 29 degree point. Obviously, many of us in the astrology community are aware that Pluto will be changing signs here in just a few short weeks. But when a planet hits 29 degrees, especially in a sign that's associated with Saturn, we are going to feel immense pressure. Now, Mercury is the last planet to come into conjunction with Pluto this week, and I find that very interesting. It's almost like through the Mercury retrograde, because it stopped short several degrees of its conjunction with Pluto, there's been something secret, something hidden. Maybe it's subconscious, maybe it was intentionally withheld, maybe we were too afraid to acknowledge it. But this week we are going to experience something, depending on where you have Capricorn in your chart, where you're going to get a message from the god of the underworld. He is going to say to you, this has come to the end of the road. We cannot go any further in this department. And it may bring some kind of earth-shattering rocks and rolls for many of us, especially when it comes to our role out in the world. Capricorn is a sign that deals with our career. It also deals with our public reputation, top government officials. And you guys have heard me just beat that 29 degree Sabian symbol like a horse. So I'm not going to read it again, but you guys know that it does deal with top secret meetings. But one thing I haven't really touched on is the 29 degrees and not only its connection to Saturn, but its connection to the sign Leo. And so one of the terms that comes up for me really significantly with 29 degrees would be the top, right? Because Leo, obviously you guys are known for being the best of the best, but the top or the elite. So if we dig deep into that Sabian symbol, 29 degrees we know is about top secret meetings. I'm wondering, are we going to start to get more information about top secret meetings in the world, whether it's with top officials or finally information being released in regards to also job numbers, right? We're going to hear more about job numbers. I think we might have stuff that's coming out also that might be a little bit more truthful, especially in regards to inflation, okay? So let's start off with February the 5th, that's today. Happy full moon. It's a full moon in Leo. I am intentionally filming this early because that full moon, at least in my life, looks like a bit of a hot mess. So I'm going to hope that it's going well for you guys. Maybe you guys caught my full moon in Leo video. If you haven't, make sure you watch it. I talk all about how it's a really dramatic full moon. Obviously, you know, when we have a full moon, we want to take a look at what's going on with Luna, but the star of this lunation is actually going to be the sun in the sign of Aquarius, where it's in its detriment, and it's still in that just really rather annoying square to Uranus and Taurus. So some of you guys might be feeling very restless. I've heard a lot of people talking about this in the comments. I'm restless, I want to break free, I don't want to do this anymore, kind of like wanting to kind of break out of the system, breaking out of the matrix maybe. And this is a closing square. So I did 2 videos because it's very important, guys. There are things that are finally breaking through for society, right? I'm trying to keep my vibe high. I think that the square is talking about the people, right? Sun in Aquarius. The square to Uranus is the challenge to financial systems. I think people are starting to kind of question what's really going on in the world financially, what's going on with food supplies, what's going on with the banking system, and they're like, we need to get some disclosure. So a lot of this full moon will bring up some very dramatic situations out in the world. It's happening over the weekend. To be honest with you, you've been feeling this really since Thursday, okay? So remember last week we talked about how on Thursday the moon moves through the sign of Cancer, comes into that opposition with Pluto, and then it's going to ingress into the sign of Leo, and it's like Friday, Saturday is like, holy cow. So you may have felt that several days building up. Remember, full moons, we can look at something taking place within 2 or 3 days on each side of the lunation. If you are somebody who has any fixed placements, 15 through 17 degrees of the fixed signs, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, Godspeed. It's a colorful one. And for those of you guys who are part of my Pluto and Scorpio gens, especially like the late 80s, early 90s, holy cow, can we commiserate together how wild this is with the Uranus opposition and all of the squares? It's creating some grand fixed crosses in my chart, and it's made me rather kind of rebellious in a way. So I mean, maybe a little bit more ornery, but whatever. But yeah, this full moon is going to be kind of taking place yesterday, today, tomorrow. If you want to do something to celebrate the full moon, do something that's going to make your heart happy, right? The moon in Leo is saying, I got to be creative, I got to dance, I have to play, I have to have fun. There is a sense of taking chances. Just don't go gambling today, all right? Gambling with your money or with your feelings. That's what I would recommend. Just be careful. And there's a whole video on this. And I also really recommend listening to the Sun Square Uranus, because it's going to break that down archetypally and make you guys understand that it's a part of a bigger series of transits that have been seeded since the spring of 2022. So check that out. We're still feeling that Sun Uranus square. That's where it's kind of like wanting to break out of something, wanting to break out of the glory plan. Maybe you had your day or your week kind of going in one direction, or even some of your goals going in one direction. And it's like the cosmos were like, nope, we're going to turn it on its head. And it's very electrifying whenever we have squares to Uranus. If you want to get technical, yes, it's creating a grand fixed square, but really if we just look at the moon and the sun, the Uranus in Taurus is the focal point ruled by Venus. And I think the kind of the silver lining, at least for me, is, okay, whatever dramatic scenario happens this weekend, right? You have a squabble with a romantic partner, you got a kid that's acting up and kind of misbehaving and having their tantrums. Maybe it's a financial situation that comes up that you didn't anticipate. Venus is in wonderful placement, and she is sextiling both the North Node and Uranus. And so what she's saying is some things have to kind of be put to rest, some things have to be let go to create space for something new that's going to arrive. So for those of you guys who are having a tower moment with some of these transits, know that there is room for healing, there is room for clearing. You just got to kind of keep the faith. And if you happen to be socializing this weekend, just don't stir the pot. Just don't. You're going to see some drama kind of going down somewhere in the world. Got to hand it to the Leo moons to keep things interesting for all of us out in the world. All right, so let's take it to Monday and let's see what's going on Monday the 6th. Looks like we wake up, I think we're going to wake up feeling kind of grouchy. That's the feeling that I'm getting looking at this. So the moon is going to be on Monday morning, still in Leo, but it comes into an opposition with Saturn. And this is part of the reason why I thought that, because there are so many darn lunar transits revolving around the full moon, whether you're looking at when it was in opposition to Pluto, the opposition to the sun, and then finally Saturn. The moon-Saturn opposition opening up on Monday morning, you're probably wishing it's Friday, Monday morning the 6th, is limited connections, limited emotions, right? Remember that the sun is traditionally connected to the sign of Leo, and we still are feeling that sun-moon opposition, and then boom, the moon opposes Saturn, and we feel some kind of setback, limitation. Maybe it takes longer to get to work that morning, right? Maybe you're finding it difficult to kind of bounce back from an emotional weekend. Maybe you're feeling like, you know what, you're just not ready to talk about it. You're not ready to socialize. You're just kind of like, leave me alone. Let me have my cup of coffee at work. So we might be feeling a little detached and a little moody Monday morning. Now, thankfully, in the afternoon, the moon is going to shift signs. It's going to go into the sign of Virgo. So that's going to happen in the afternoon. Different vibe, right? We move from fixed fire to burning it all down all weekend to moving into mutable earth. And when the moon moves into Virgo, we will feel more grounded. That's the positive. We also are going to be paying close attention to what's going on with Mercury for the better part of the next 3 days. And we know that Mercury is getting very close to Pluto. So what do we do when the moon is in the sign of Virgo? We may feel like we're paying more attention to detail. We might kind of need to work through our to-do list. We might feel like it's time to organize, declutter, walk the dog, get all of our stuff done, all of our chores done. And just we're busy, right? We're focusing on service. It's a very mercurial type of energy. Thankfully also, because we have so much placement in other earth signs, it'll be a decent working period. Like, yeah, you're going to see some squares between Venus and Mars, whatever it is, what it is. It's going to push us to communicate. But for the most part, I really like some of the aspects the moon will be making because it's going to help us get grounded, get things done physically. The moon's going to stay there really throughout the day. We're also going to see on the 6th, Mercury will form its sextile to Neptune. Now, we saw this briefly right around the time of the retrograde. It's happened several times. Frankly, it's a transit that you may miss it if you're not paying attention. Mercury is about documents, information, business, travel. In the sign of Capricorn, it's about staying on task, getting work done, being able to share information with other people. And Neptune in Pisces, it's much more visual, emotional, sentimental, kind of withdrawn. So it's interesting because traditionally Pisces energy and Virgo or mercurial energy, they're polar opposites. But this is a day where you're going to see these two working in harmony. There's a lot of like, this is how I'm feeling, this is how it should go. There's like a sense of wanting your workflow to feel like a state of meditation. So it may be a day that's really beneficial and helpful to sit and meditate on things early in the morning before you get stuff done. Have a to-do list, but also check in with yourself and go, do I feel like I need to get all of this done today? Am I going to get overwhelmed, right? Because you can get really fixated and really in your head this week with the Pluto Mercury conjunction that's going to be building. So we'll have throughout all of the 6th on Monday, the moon just keeps moving through Virgo. And yeah, the Mercury-Neptune sextile is a lot of like checking in with people and being like, do you feel like you're hitting your deadline? Are you feeling well enough to work today? Do you need to take a little rest or a little nap in between? Working with visuals and also like video and presentations can be really smooth in terms of what you're relaying and sharing with other people. So getting the point across visually might work a little bit better throughout this transit on Monday. All right, so we see the Mercury-Neptune sextile also as intuition being a little bit higher. It's really great for those of you guys who want to like strategize and plan into the future. It can also be a really wonderful day for divination. I think that it can be really, really wonderful all the way up until Mercury comes into conjunction with Pluto, honestly. Lots of details from that moon in Virgo, lots of accuracy from Mercury and Pluto, going deep and wanting to really get to the core of some kind of information. If you want to read your tarot cards, you want to get into astrology this week, I would highly recommend it. I also think that dream journaling and dream recall might be a little bit stronger with that Mercury sextile Neptune, but it's very quick. You're going to miss it. So you'll probably get a little bit of that on Sunday night, Monday night, and then it begins to separate. Okay. But that's really like where the mind and the inspiration are working together. So I like that aspect. All right, so let's take you guys through Monday night. We're going to get into the morning on Tuesday the 7th. And one of the first aspects that we're going to start seeing that's going to set up, let's take it to like 8 a.m. The moon is going to trine its own north node. Okay, so we've got the moon in Virgo trining its own north node in Taurus, money, resources, food, stability, feeling comfortable. Tuesday is a day where you have to really ask yourself, what's missing, right? What's missing? What's the missing piece? Did I, not eat breakfast this morning? Did I not take time to really sit and reflect and meditate? Like what's missing? Because you want to be checking in with the physical body and seeing like where something seems off. I know that sounds weird, but I'm really pulling that more from the moon in opposition to Venus. So what's nice is as the north node and the moon trine, like you guys need to make sure you wake up and you get your oatmeal in the morning. You need to make sure that you do stretch a little bit. You do strategize and plan ahead and have a goal in mind, okay? Because this can be a little bit more of a active day with some of the lunar transits. When we see earth trines, we see physical things come to formation generally pretty smoothly. Now, as we go later into the day, we see some more lunar transits. We're going to see the moon start to come into a square with Mars. This is going to be kind of early afternoon on Tuesday. We can feel agitated. We can feel rushed. That's the truth. Moon square Mars is a sense of hurry up, but yeah, hold on. I'm putting the finishing touches on something. Don't rush me. And then we're going to watch the moon start coming into an opposition with Venus. Trine Uranus. Lots of lunar transits on the 7th. To me, it feels like a lot of like tweaking and perfecting something. Making changes to our health, making changes to our finances, to our spending habits, our eating habits. And quite frankly, when the moon is in an opposition to Venus, especially because we have an exalted Venus here, it feels like people are nitpicking more. It's difficult to relate. We might feel more logical, right? Especially because we have very strong mercurial energy in the skies. Moon in Virgo, moon building into a trine with Mercury and Pluto in Capricorn. It's direct, it's literal, it's physical, which doesn't really resonate well with having all of these placements in Aquarius. This is traditionally seen as 8 signs away from the sign of Aquarius. So if you're an Aquarius rising, Virgo's your 8th house. And there's this sense of being like, yeah, I don't want to get bombarded and distracted and bothered with the details. Like, I'd rather not know, just like, let me be free. So there can be this sense of like ignorance is bliss and not really wanting to pay attention to what's going on out in the world because you don't want to be affected by it. Here's the truth. Because Virgo deals with health and because Venus deals with connections and socializing and also pleasure, there is a need to be able to know, and checking in with yourself in regards to how you're feeling. We have to know this stuff. We can't just rush through things, right? We have to also be willing to look at the shadow self, look at things that are uncomfortable, look at things that we need to clean up and kind of work out throughout the day. The moon in Virgo wants to help you do that. But yeah, when the moon is in opposition to Venus, we feel conflicted between our work and our obligation and, staying on task and like relationships, and we're not getting the response back from the significant other. We may not be feeling like we're really enjoying the music in the coffee shop. We may not feel like people are friendly when we're out and about in the world. We're going to have a mutable T-square. So as the moon comes into an opposition with Venus, making it difficult to relate, it's also in a square to Mars. So please be careful while you are driving. Watch your words and how you communicate with people, because there can be a sense of being a little nitpicky, a little bit pushy, a little edgy, and it can make us like retreat, right? And so Venus doesn't like that feeling of being in a hard aspect to the moon. Now, going into the evening on Tuesday, the moon is just going to keep building to Uranus and Taurus. And this is a sense of like just adjusting, right? So we come home and we're like, oh, today's over, thank God. Now we're resting and recuperating. Just ground your energy out. That's what I would recommend doing. Ground your energy out as you get into the evening on Tuesday. And eat a hearty meal, you know, hang out and maybe like repot a plant, sit with your crystals, do whatever you have to do. Just ground your energy out, and it's going to help you kind of diffuse from some of the static during the day. Now, something else that we're going to see is as you're doing that, the moon's going to come in conjunction with Chiron. So there is this sense of like needing to literally bounce back from whatever you got hit with energetically while you're out and about on Tuesday. Okay. I like the moon trine the North Node in Uranus. I feel like it's going to give you opportunity for emotional adjustment. And I feel like it's also going to give you solutions to like reflect on the day and go, so what did I do today that I like could have done differently, right? Or how could I have rescheduled something differently? Or how could I have handled something differently? We get into Wednesday morning, the 8th. And we're going to wake up in the morning with the moon in opposition now to Venus. So it still is this, in opposition to Neptune. We're still feeling the Venus opposition. But the moon will now be in opposition to Neptune. For me, that feels as if we're like disassociating. We can be disassociating, right? Quite a bit. There can also be this sense of, could it be true? You know, is it what we think it is? There can be a sense of getting spooked out in the world in terms of things that we're hearing, especially in relation to health, or anything in regards to, you know, things that might seem like a little suspicious, honestly. Neptune is foggy. It's not clear, especially at 23 degrees as we see the moon hit that. Let's look at this. It's a lot of like, there can be, you know, stuff that's coming out where people are freaking out and they're kind of paranoid. Paranoia is going to be super high this week. And I don't say that to encourage it. I'm just letting you know that it's out there, that there can be some really extreme people in terms of how they communicate and also trying to kind of like freak people out. So there can be this sense with the moon in opposition to Neptune that's just like, this is overwhelming. I just want to retreat. Let me be, right? Especially with these placements that are in the sign of Pisces. A lot of us are going to be like, I want to go home and binge Netflix. I want to have a couple glasses of wine. Sure, but watch your habits on the 8th. Watch your habits, watch your patterns. Watch your sleeping habits, watch your eating habits, watch your communication habits. That's the 3 things you want to take a look at on Wednesday. And I know that it's hump day and that's when you're just kind of like already like, okay, I'm done with the week. But this seems to me like on one hand, there can be a sense of disassociating or falling back into negative patterns. On the other hand, I'm liking that the moon is coming into a trine with Mercury. Very important because Mercury is the ruler of Virgo. So there's something about our daily routines, our habits, our issues, right? This can be about delays and accidents and problems, but it's trining Mercury. So it's saying, okay, I'm going to talk about it. I'm focusing on solutions. I'm focusing on how to kind of overcome this, how to handle and manage this in a timely fashion. And Mercury obviously is getting closer to Pluto. So we'll see that the moon is going to be trining that Mercury-Pluto conjunction, really highlighting this in a very, very big way, the 8th and the 9th, okay? All right, so we're going to see the same day, Venus at a 15 is coming into a sextile with Uranus and Taurus. So this is nice because Venus rules the North Node. Venus is still very much strongly associated with Uranus and Taurus because it's a Venus-ruled sign. So we've got an interesting setup here as Venus is approaching Neptune, which can feel like fairy tales and super romantic. And it's like the setup for mid-February where it can be like the most amazing, spiritual, private, retreat-oriented, foreign travel, you know, being at a spa, like romance novel type of vibe. But it can also be this feeling of being let down or being misled or something being misrepresented, especially when it comes to money as well as relationships. So you want to watch as Venus sextiles Uranus. The positive side is we, in a very much more comfortable manner, can make adjustments. We can make adjustments to our spending habits. We can make adjustments to our style. We can make adjustments in relationships. Earth and water love each other. Together they make mud, right? So as Venus is sextiling Uranus, she's basically saying, hey, this is the dream that I have. This is the vision. And Uranus says, okay, we can change that. We can transform that. And so it's a great day for like vision boarding, meditating, visualizing, manifesting, listening to music, writing poetry. If that's stuff that you're into, if you're an artist, whatever your method is, this is a wonderful day for being able to take the vision and bringing it into physical fruition, okay? As we go through the rest of Wednesday, in the PM hours, the moon is finally going to come into her trine with Mercury. And that's really big because it's in a Taurus degree, so it is about money, okay? It's about physical things, tangible things, banking and resources. And I know I sound like I'm beating a dead horse here, but this is going to be very significant as we see Mercury and Pluto come into conjunction. So when the moon in Virgo, which is about our emotions, how we're physically feeling these things, are coming into harmony with communication and change and transformation, there can be the sense that's like, I have to get out of my own way. I have to quit these bad habits. I have to let this thing go. I have to be better at staying on task, being on schedule. And there is a way to purify and cleanse my mind, my body, my routine. So I love that for the evening, for the 8th. That's still Wednesday. It's a good working period too. So I'm not encouraging you guys to totally like upend your schedule, but I'm wondering like if there's something that you really need to kind of get down to business on, doing this on Wednesday night can be a wonderful time to do this, okay? Communicating and being able to kind of get to the core of where you can kind of take your power back or just get to the bottom of a situation, especially if you're hoping to like communicate something in regards to coworkers, if you're wanting to send out a work email, if you want to schedule a meeting. You can even schedule it at night. You don't necessarily have to do it at that time. And if you just happen to notice that you're kind of working a little bit more into the PM hours, I think that you may find that you're a little bit more productive on Wednesday night. All right, so we're going to get into Thursday, the 9th. We wake up in the morning and the moon is in Libra. Which is nice, actually. So, you know, Libra, partnering, relationships, harmony. I'm liking this because we move out of like the heavier earth trines. We're going to move into some slight air trines that we're going to see on the 9th and the 10th. When the moon is in Libra, we focus on balance, right? We focus on how things look. We try to kind of be supportive of other people. We have a tendency to want to connect more with others. Venus is the star of the show. She's exalted in Pisces, and she's coming into that conjunction with Neptune. So she's pretty nicely placed. We've got support from Earth, and we've got support to the North Node. Finally, we're kind of making our way out of that Mars-Venus square. So maybe you've noticed a little bit of friction this last week in relationships. By this point, it's kind of easing up a little bit more. As the moon continues to go through Libra, she's going to come into an opposition with Jupiter. So just a heads up here. Late afternoon going into the evening hours, you're going to feel that, we can be a little bit more reactionary, right? Jupiter in the sign of Aries is really big action oriented. It's about individuals having a sense of direction and being self-sufficient, and they can be a little bit more boastful. And then we've got the moon in Libra that's like, I want a partner, and we can get some really strong reactions from other people. On the positive, this can also be that other people incentivize us to want to get active. So if you're wanting to like go and meet with a trainer, if you're wanting to meet with a therapist, if you're wanting to kind of sit down with a partner and talk about your day and what you've learned and like share, wonderful way to use this energy. I like it. I just think that just watch, because some people can have much stronger emotional reactions with that opposition. Now, as it continues to go into the evening on the 9th, we're going to see then the moon will oppose Chiron, and we're going to see Mercury and Pluto conjunct. And so it's like late evening on the 9th. I mean, could make for some really interesting pillow talk, honestly. I feel like this can be a sense of like the moon highlighting relationships and togetherness. It's in opposition to Chiron, so it's like wanting to kind of heal personal wounds through connecting with other people. At the same time, Mercury and Pluto are connecting, so there is this really significant, deep, profound mental opportunity for communication and like getting to the core of issues and problems, especially emotionally. Okay, this is happening at 28 degrees. So it's about the home, it's about family, it's about roots, it's about the past. And there can be some sense of also women reacting very strongly, right? Because the moon is feminine, and feeling challenged in some way, perhaps, by more masculine energy. Okay, so sometimes when we see oppositions between Libra and Aries, we do see some friction between masculine and feminine archetypes. I think it's interesting that we see Mercury and Pluto conjunct at the same time. So it's basically saying it is possible that there can be some really intense conversations brewing. Personally, out in the world, right? This is finally going to be the period where we start to kind of realize, oh, there's information out there that elitists have, that big tech has, that the government has, that is now finally coming out, and it has been withheld. I don't care anybody's political affiliations, it doesn't matter to me, but we are going to find that this has intentionally been withheld. So I'm kind of sitting around going like, okay, let the games begin. Some of this stuff is finally going to start making its way out into the world, specifically the internet. We're going to see that more when Mercury goes into Aquarius. I mean, obviously Mercury in Aquarius is really wonderful for all those conspiracy theorists. You're going to hear some really crazy stuff over the next couple of weeks. But some of the stuff I don't think really is all that crazy. I think it's things that people have been speculating for some time, and then finally it's just kind of making its way out into the world, and we're going to realize there was a little bit of truth. I think to every conspiracy there's a little bit of truth at the bottom of it. I could be wrong. But what does it mean for you, right? Mercury, Pluto, whispers of, oh, this is ending. Look at where Capricorn is in your chart, okay? Since 2008, Pluto has been there. Mercury is the only planet that can go within both worlds. He can go to the underworld, he can come and hang out with us mortals, he can go up to the heavens and convene with a higher source and a higher power. So he is now going and having a sit down essentially, right, with an archetype of the underworld. So you may hear in mercurial outlets, whether this is the news or the radio, or you're hearing this, on YouTube, or you're reading this in the newspaper, Pluto archetypes are going to be alive and well. Okay, so Pluto is about death and rebirth, but it can be crime bosses. It can be exposing, political or high-ranking officials for who they really are. And keep in the back of your mind, right? This was withheld through the Mercury retrograde. Also, what is Mercury associated with? Mars. So here we have Mars at 12 degrees, which is basically saying there's some shady stuff going on. It's not entirely clear. P.S. That shady stuff is going to continue to march until we get out of the Mars-Neptune square. But I find it very fascinating that throughout the entire Mercury retrograde, we saw several times, while both Mercury and Mars were retrograde, that Mercury was in conjunct Mars. Also indicating, no, this is classified, this is top secret. We can't release that, that can't be put out there. Or people basically saying it needs to be put out in a timely manner. We need to disperse this information in little bits and pieces so it's not so startling. But it's kind of hard to not look at just the amount of ungodly conjunctions that are taking place with outer planets. So we have Pluto at 28, Saturn at 26, Neptune at 23. What's happening? Mercury is conjuncting Pluto. This is ending. This stinks. That's really how I want to phrase it. This stinks. We're going to hear news that we're just going to be like, that doesn't sound very good. Sun conjunct Saturn. Oh, this is the limitations we're going to have because of that. Venus conjunct Neptune. This is a sacrifice you have to make for the collective, or for everyone, or everything will be okay. It's for the best. Guys, there is some sinister stuff going on out in the world right now with some of these conjunctions. As we start to see that the Mercury-Pluto conjunction is setting up, I think it's going to be about also our subconscious, right? Because Pluto can be about fear, but it can also be fear of death, fear of transformation, fear of letting go, but power, manipulation, control mentally, right? So you want to be watching for where you're seeing media out in the world that's repeating the same script. They're saying the same thing. You're going to notice there's going to be something put out there, and every single news outlet's going to start saying it over and over and over. I don't know what it is, but to me it seems a little iffy. And definitely promoting and prompting fear. And I'm not saying this to kind of add fuel to the fire. I'm saying this so you realize that it's being done intentionally, because down the road, when Mercury comes into conjunction with Saturn, right before Saturn leaves the sign of Aquarius, we are going to realize the purpose for that, that it's like there is a scare that's going to come out, and that's going to lead to ultimately limiting something, limiting information, circulation of videos, limiting where you can get information, limiting who has access to certain platforms, right? And there's no doubt that there are meetings that are being held right now in terms of, well, how do we control this information? How do we limit who can see it? But it's also about spying, surveillance, data breaches, right? Especially pertaining to cell phones. Not many people have heard about the most recent T-Mobile. I guess there was a data breach at the beginning of January. I'm a T-Mobile user, never got notified on that. Where tons of information pertaining to your address, your all the information within your file, basically as an account holder, has been breached. So guess what? We're going to hear about more of this. But I'm wondering, is it also going to be taking place on social platforms? That's what I'm speculating may happen. I don't know. We'll see. I want to read to you guys from the Archetypal Universe really quick, just to give you some food for thought on this Mercury-Pluto conjunction. But before I read somebody else's words, this is Ren Butler, I want to just tell you, look at where a Capricorn is in your chart, okay? Pluto has been there, like I said, since 2008. Mercury is the last planet to come into conjunction to Pluto. So it's almost going to feel like you're the last one to be made aware of what's coming to an end, of what's transforming in that area of your life. So if you're like, Candace, I don't know what this means, it's in my 5th house or it's in my 9th house, go and watch my February 2023 horoscopes. This is one of the aspects I talk about. You can go directly to your timestamp. I'll tell you what it means. But it means that the power is changing or transforming. Something might be dying off, right? It might be a good rebirth. It might be a positive thing that can be happening for you. And it's all about your perspective and how you look at it. But it can also represent something where you're like, oh, I don't have control over this. I don't have access to this. I think of like Mercury and Pluto as locks, passwords. Personally, I have that conjunction myself. So let's see what Ren Butler has to say about this Mercury-Pluto archetype. Those of you guys who don't have this book, you can always find my Amazon links down below. If you're watching on mobile, not many people know, you're not going to see any of the links unless you actually click that. It doesn't pop up like it does on the desktop. But I have a whole Amazon list basically dedicated to all of the books that I read on the channel. This is page 111. All right, so we're looking at Mercury-Pluto principles. A passionate, probing mind, deep insights into emotional causes and motivations, interest in criminology, depth psychology, a gift for persuasive communication, mental struggles and obsessions, fear of one's dark shadow through thoughts, harmful and destructive communication, aggressive dogmas, beliefs, and crude speech. A passionate and probing mind, a potent blending of willpower and intellect, relentless and profound curiosity, a gift for deep analysis and questioning, penetrating insight into emotional causes and motivations, an ability to recognize the deeper significance in small details, urges to get to the bottom of problems, the probing instincts, or a detective, an interest of depth psychology, criminology, a study of the shadow of the psyche, a tendency to think all about sex, deep and persuasive communication, intense conversations, arousing opinions, urges to speak the forbidden, blasphemy, heresy, intense and powerful criticism, the destructive effect of truth, the breakdown of old philosophical models, transformed point of view, exploded beliefs, the need for change bulldozed a road down the center of the mind, a penchant for dark comedy, corrosive wit, comedy is a great deflator and leveler. Against the assault of laughter, nothing can stand. Shadow qualities, a tendency towards mental fixation and struggle, fear of polluting one's mind with dark or heavy images, obsession with one thought, extreme or financial opinions, a mind ready to explode, bad attitudes, harmful and destructive comments, aggressive dogma, propaganda, tendencies toward mental domination, intellectual power struggles, desires to change other people's mind forcefully, urges to impose one's intellectual or philosophical model on the world, an inclination to ask loaded questions to make others confess, attempt to destroy others verbally, mucking journalism, intrusive reporting, poison pen or tongue, devastating insults. Let's see, what else? That's pretty much it. I mean, there's the dream images, but that's just more how that would be coming up for you. But themes in deep self-exploration. The Mercury-Pluto field tends to intensify people's mental processes as their mind become channels for emerging perennial energies. Although a great asset for verbal catharsis, journeyers may need encouragement to allow any dark or profane sounds to emerge from inside them and be fully expressed. Yeah, okay, Mercury conjunct Pluto. We can definitely have a tendency to be obsessive. We can have a tendency to just forcefully want to ask questions and get to the bottom of things. But I'm really fixated on what came up in this, where it was talking about imposing, where is it? Impose one's intellectual or philosophical model on the world. Yeah, bad attitudes, but going after harmful and destructive comments. Propaganda. Tendencies toward mental domination. These are things you want to watch for in the week, guys. You're going to see a lot of this. And if it's repetitively coming up in various forms of media, likely, it doesn't matter what it is, we're about to get hit with a wave of propaganda. I think it's a war on freedom of speech, personally. I've noticed a wave of people who are getting angry and they don't know how to communicate or express that anger. They'll just go for the jugular. I know that people fear what they don't understand. I know that people get angry when they feel like they've been misled or led to slaughter. I know that there are people who have believed and trusted in those who have proclaimed to be leaders or protectors who have abused their power. And so I think that this is just a really important time to watch how things are being worded, how manipulation of speech is being put out there to be able to kind of twist the narrative or change things or change the rules or change the definition, okay? But in your life, you're gonna get word that something is coming to an end, or you're going to read between the lines in some way. Maybe you catch a phrase or you catch something and it's like usually hidden in plain sight. I've been experiencing this a lot, just kind of watching some of the White House corresponders and things that representatives for the White House and for Biden have been saying, because I have caught little bits and pieces and phrases of things that really should alert most people, but it's almost like we become desensitized to it. So I'm wondering, like, are we all under like this mass hypnosis? What's going on? Like, has there been just so much crisis over the last few years that not much phases us anymore? Regardless of whether or not you're watching the news or you're listening to a conversation you're having with your significant other, or you get a really prominent piece of mail that comes, right? Or a really significant email, or maybe somebody has a conversation with you. They talk to you about something very sensitive, or maybe somebody shares a secret with you. Maybe you find something out. Regardless of what it is, this is what has been held back during the entire Mercury retrograde, and it may be groundbreaking information that really changes and transforms the way that you look at that house. So make sure you watch that horoscope so you can find out where that's taking place for you. We're gonna now move to Friday the 10th, later in the day. So that conjunction's happening really late on the 9th. Into the morning on the 10th, I'm going to wake up first thing in the morning and I want to see what's going on in the world on Friday, because I think that that's when the news is going to begin to break, personally. But we'll see more of it also when the moon goes into Scorpio. And one other thing, the South Node is co-ruled by Pluto. So the fact that Mercury is coming into conjunction with Pluto is very significant in terms of uncovering, releasing, letting something go. And it can be about taxes, it can be about money that's spent, it can be about banking systems, it can also very, very, very much be about things that have been intentionally buried and hidden, like very Scorpio. All right, so let's take it into later in the morning on the 10th. We're going to have the moon obviously in opposition to Chiron, so we might be more sensitive and aware of wounding. Thankfully, we're going to start seeing the moon move into a trine with the sun. This will be happening later in the day. We have a nice air trine. I guess I should have mentioned that. But over the evening, the moon is also in the trine with Mars. So our actions and how we communicate and move through the world is in alignment with the 7th house placement of the moon. So it's saying we've got other people who are helping us get things out, communicate, share. This is like information's going to fly very quickly type of day. I like air trines because we can connect with others, we can relate, we can get things done. But the sun and the moon, we always love to see them in harmony. So seeing them in a trine makes me feel like it has the opportunity to really be stronger together, Sun, Saturn, and Aquarius, and also allow the public to be able to better relate to one another. So I think relationships are going to be a little bit easier. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting. So the moon will trine Mars, the moon will trine the sun. This is going to be later in the day, and it just kind of feels like everything's kind of coming together very nicely. And then also we're going to see that the moon in Libra will be in conjunct Venus, which is kind of weird, right? Quincunxes are in conjuncts. But if you look very closely, we still have Venus that's in a sextile to Uranus. So we're switching things up about our resources, our values, our physical needs. And here's the moon that's going to come into a focal point with a yod. So it's basically saying relationships are the way forward, right? Working with other people, that's the way forward. If you need some kind of support in a relationship or with a financial situation, or if you're looking to get healing or support so you feel better grounded, there are people who are willing to help you, right? This is going to be part of the Sun conjunct Saturn conjunction as well. Okay, so later in the day, we will then see the moon start coming into a trine with Saturn. Mercury hits 29. So it's kind of going into the morning. So actually we're going to see the moon trine early morning on the 11th. But before it does, it's going to square Pluto. Actually, it'll be right about the same time. So we're going to have Friday. Is this Friday? No, Saturday, excuse me. Saturday the 11th. It's my dad's birthday. Make sure everybody says happy birthday to David. He'll like that. Maybe you guys catch him. He's always in the live chats on Friday night. We've got the moon square Pluto. Emotional tensions. First thing Saturday morning, right? And it can feel difficult relating to other people. We might feel like there's power struggles. Once again, I'm all about finding the silver lining, making lemonade, right? So while this is difficult and feeling like somebody's kind of throwing a tantrum and being kind of bossy and there's some pressure in regards to how we relate to other people, here comes the moon to save the day with a trine to Saturn. I like that a lot. It's saying if you're having tension in relationships, if you're having power struggles, focus on team efforts, okay? Try to be about like everybody working together. Try to find a friend or somebody else who can kind of mediate and jump in and kind of assist you. And when the moon trines Saturn, we're emotionally committing to our goals. So it's like, yes, this is difficult, but this is where we grow, right? So that's how you want to look at that. Mercury enters into Aquarius. And what's going to be interesting is then we start to see the moon finally makes the square to Pluto, enters into Scorpio, okay? And this is in the afternoon, so moon enters into Scorpio, so we feel that mood shift. And you'll start feeling it when the moon's square Pluto. It's a very moon and Scorpio energy anyway, but then the moon goes into Scorpio, immediately squares Mercury. Mercury is 0 degrees, the moon is 0 degrees. This is saying that there's something that's not resonating, and it's very much connected to the moon square Pluto in regards to safety and security and information. Oh, I heard this. What? That can't be true. What do you mean? That's crazy talk, Mercury in Aquarius. No. So, you know, you want to watch for like the fear porn and the stuff that's coming up with the moon coming into this sign, emotionally finding it difficult to relate, right? And Mercury's pretty strong in Aquarius. I could see this as, you know, trying to get the word out there. So it's interesting that right when it comes into the conjunction with Pluto, it then enters into the sign of Aquarius where it's free. Nothing can be held back any longer. So it's like, boom, something's going to hit the internet. Then we're going to see the moon square Mercury. So it's going to be like it sends collective shockwaves out into the world. And then Pluto hits 29 degrees, like the last degree. Okay, so it will stay here until it enters into the sign of Aquarius. Very, very, very prominent degree because it's basically saying those who are in control, power structures, older people in government, older people in society, people who have had long-standing positions of power are really going to ratchet up that sense of being like, no, we're not ready to kind of let go yet, right? Making it difficult to emotionally relate. The moon comes into conjunction with the south node. Everybody's doing their Scorpio south node moon spiral. I've heard so many people tell me that when the moon goes through this, goes through Scorpio and it touches on the south node, everybody's like purging, whether you're angry crying in your car, or there's a sense of just like cleaning out the closet, or people are having all kinds of tummy and digestional issues. You're noticing that there is like a detox or a purge that is going on energetically. Knowing that these are coming, right, these transits, it's important to know, because you might wake up and you're just like really emotional. The last couple of months, people will text me right when the moon's in Scorpio. I have 4 planets in Scorpio, and people will go, I woke up and I just started crying today. And I was like, yeah, time to get that out of your system. You know, you're a little backed up there. So especially I could see how like stress and anxiety, having Mercury in a Uranian sign, with that square to the south node, and just the of whatever we end up kind of finding out throughout this week. Okay, so the 11th continues. We see the moon keep moving through the sign of Scorpio. Comes into that conjunction at 6 degrees, which is about health. That's going to be midday. That's going to be happening on Sunday. Okay, so next week we'll talk about this a little bit. But that's a sense of like, I gotta let this go. I have to let all this go. I can't hold on to this. Then the moon keeps moving, and it will come into an opposition with Uranus. And that's emotionally destabilizing a little all over the place. And this will be leading into next week. So we'll talk about it more next week. But moon opposed Uranus, shocking emotions, destabilization. Oh my goodness, what's going on? You know, what am I going to lose? What's going to happen? Like, there's a lot of that comes up with the Scorpio South Node moon aspect. And keep in mind, guys, we're not going to have a lot of clarity. We don't have a lot of clarity. Mars is still in a square with Neptune. It's going to be building, right? We also see that the transits are going to then continue Monday morning to square the sun and also Saturn. So this is kind of like breaking all this stuff down since that new moon that we had in Aquarius. So this is going to be very dismantling. This is why I keep telling everybody, the new year is not really going to start until like, you know, Aries season. It's not going to be until March. So there is a sense of having to clear things out. We've got planets that are outer planets that are getting ready to change signs. So there can be this feeling of like, everything's falling apart. But when you look at it and go, we need to do this to clear the decks, to kind of really gain clarity about what changes need to be implemented, so that way we feel like we have more freedom. That's what we think about with the sun in Aquarius. But man, Mercury and the sun are just sandwiched between Pluto, which wants power and control, and Saturn, which wants limitation. So what am I getting at here? You guys have to be aware, okay? There would not be this much emphasis in Aquarius, Mercury, Sun, Saturn, unless there was something profound that was getting ready to happen when Pluto goes into Aquarius here in a few short weeks. Watch for those whispers of what's ending, right? If you pay attention, you will be able to catch it. You'll be able to pick up on it. And it may be that it's an intuitive hit. It might be a dream. It might be a conversation you have with a boss. I'm anticipating that there's going to be some real hard facts and news coming out economically. We're going to find out that, no, it doesn't matter what they're saying the job numbers are or what inflation is. I think it's much, much, much more than what it's being made out to be. I also feel like we're getting ready to hear more from the people in regards to wanting to get information out, wanting to share, even in the midst of things being thwarted, and certain powers that be that don't want people to think freely, to share freely, to communicate freely. You're going to start learning that there are other systems, right? Mercury and Aquarius. You're going to learn that there's other groups. These might be groups that you have to join. They may be groups that you have to participate in. You're going to have to pull your weight. But there are people out there who want to help get you that information. So really support, right? Support the YouTubers that you like. Go and support the individual, what am I thinking? The individual creators, you know, news anchors. I mean, you see a lot of independent journalists now. I feel like I've seen so many significant people who used to be anchors that are now moving to different platforms, and they're choosing to do their own thing because they have said, now I want to be able to kind of share this information freely, okay? Think freely with some of these transits and really embrace some of the change that's coming this week. Like I said, if you want to know more about the Mercury Conjunct Pluto, how that's playing out for you, go and check out my horoscopes for February. You guys can join me on Friday. I'm going to be here 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time. So it's going to be 5 p.m. Western Pacific Time. Hello, I'm thinking West Coast. Pacific Time. And that's going to be at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Friday, we're going to be doing live tarot readings. I'll post the link early in the community tab, so if you guys want to check that out, you can. I've got lots of content that's going to be coming out in this next week. I'm going to start talking to you guys about the Sun-Saturn conjunction. I'm also putting some stuff together on these conjunctions that are going to be taking place with Chiron. We are going to see a whole wave of a movement regards to healing, self-healing, right? Chiron and Aries. Jupiter's getting close. We're going to hear a lot about this. We're going to hear a lot about the responsibility of standing up and knowledge being something that's also powerful, educating yourself on the law, educating yourself on your rights. So I'm going to talk about how that's affecting the collective, what we might see throughout some of these transits over the next couple of months, how it's going to affect potentially veterans, okay? So I'm doing a lot of like deep diving on this stuff. So it's taking me a little bit more time to get it out there. I'm also going to be putting together a Saturn and Pisces boot camp. So I'm trying to do something for the Chiron stuff, and I'm trying to do something for the Saturn people. So if you have a natal Saturn in Pisces, if you're getting ready to have your Saturn return, your first, second, or even your third, maybe you have a stellium of planets in Pisces, maybe you're Pisces rising, that's going to be coming here sometime in March. So that way you have like a roadmap of how to navigate that transit. As always though, if you guys have content that you want me to make, or you have things that you want me to put something together, please leave me your comments below. You guys so much, thank you so much for your support. If you leave comments, if you give me a thumbs up, if you subscribe, if you share, any interaction with the channel helps the channel grow. It's gonna help get this information out to other people who wanna hear what's going on out in the cosmos and how it relates to us, and also better navigating our life so we know what's coming and we can focus on raising consciousness. That's the whole MO of this channel. But thank you guys so much. I will see you in just a couple of days. Enjoy the rest of the week. Happy full moon. I'll see all of you guys very soon. Take care.